to not let the thinking activity be your life, because if you let it be your life, you're living in a world of suffering. You're living in a world where the ongoing project is to change and resist the way things are, because the way things are isn't the way you want them to be. Right? That's what you're paying attention to if you're paying attention every day from a meditative place. You're looking at what's happening. You're looking at the experience that's available of your life. And then you're noticing that there's a mental state playing about that. And a lot of the time, the mental state that's playing about that is saying, it's wrong. It shouldn't be. That shouldn't be. You shouldn't be. They shouldn't have said that. He shouldn't be president. It shouldn't be raining. You know, I was listening to the weather report this morning on a radio station, and the woman was going out of her way to apologize because it was raining. I'm sorry to have to tell you that the weather is rainy today. It was rainy yesterday. It's supposed to be rainy tomorrow. That's how we're all trained. You know what I mean? She wasn't like trying to behave unusually. She was behaving very normally because she knew that that's the way most people are experiencing the weather. This is good, and when it gets cloudy, that's not so good. If it's raining, that's not so good either. If it's windy, that's not so good either. If it's a little too hot, that's not so good either. If it's a little too cold, that's not so good either. It narrows down to there's not much room for it to be okay. You know what I mean? If you listen to all the mind's decisions and reactions about what's happening, there's very little okayness going on. You know, there's not much okayness going on, especially if you look at the news. You know, the news is a state of mind. The news is a state of mind. If you listen to the news, the person speaking on the news is just like the voice in your head, right? Except it's got new shit to talk about. Right? It gives you new material to be upset about instead of just the same old shit you got going on, right? Right? This is what the teachers and the teachings mean when they say, take responsibility for your life. Stop making it a horror show. You know, you're making it a horror show. When you relate to your life, when you relate to your existence with an ongoing judgment and evaluation machine in your head going all the time, comparing the way it is to the way you would like it to be, comparing the way it is to the way it's supposed to be, compare the way it is to the way that you believe it should be. That's a hell of a negative operation all day long, all day long. Right? Why does it take for us as human beings to be on our deathbed to realize what we're missing? Right? Yeah. When you're on your deathbed, it's like, oh, that's what they meant by stop suffering. Oh, because now you realize that the moment is a precious moment now. The moment that you've had millions and trillions of in your life, all of a sudden is precious. All of a sudden is precious, right? Why is that? Because you've been living in a state of mind all your life. The state of mind can't appreciate anything. It's not alive. And you give your life to it. You give what is alive to a state of mind that's not alive, that's saying that what's happening shouldn't be happening. That's called crazy. Yeah, the mildest form of that is neurosis, right? But I think it's very important for all of us to look at the definition of neurosis every once in a while so you can see what's going on with yourself, right? And the neurotic definition is that's the minimal mental condition. Most of us are beyond that. It's not just neurosis. It's neurosis and then it's depression, or it's neurosis, then I'm suffering from anxiety, right? And it's affecting my body now, so my body hurts. Now I have diagnosis to deal with and I'm on medication too. You know, your life becomes a project that you can't stand being with, right? You can't stand being with your own life. That's a hell of a statement, you know, but you have to make contact with that reality to understand that it's necessary for you to make a commitment to the possibility. The possibility is a real possibility. It's really possible for you to experience tranquility. It's really possible for you to be happy no matter what the circumstances are. Yeah? Including your mind. Your mind is a circumstance. Do you understand? Your mind is a circumstance. It's a circumstance. It's an unstable circumstance that's constantly changing, and it's got a negative bias. It's looking at everything through the lens of what's wrong. Isn't it? Yeah. So it's a circumstance. And if you give your life to that circumstance, you're giving your life to hell. You're giving your life to craziness. Right? So what do you do with that? You understand that the mind, your relationship to the mind is going to determine the quality of your existence. Right? So when it's crazy, that doesn't mean you're crazy unless you pay attention to it and identify with it. If it's crazy and you understand that you're not your mind, you can look at it and see that it's crazy, but you're not crazy. Right? That's the distinction that allows you to get free, is to be able to see your mind as a mind and to understand that it's reporting from a very limited database called your conditioning. The way to be with life, right, is to just be with life. There's no strategy. Consciousness has no strategy. Consciousness is not trying to do anything. It's like the space in this room. It's a perfect metaphor. Space in this room is not trying to do anything. It doesn't care what happens here. No matter what happens here. We could have sex here, it doesn't mind. We could kill each other, it doesn't mind. It stays the same the whole time, right? That's the nature of our consciousness, right? That's why you want to practice being consistent with the nature of consciousness, which is empty, which is always empty, right? You know, the experience that I was talking about that I had this morning, it was like emptiness. It was like empty. It was like a thrilling emptiness. It was like a thrilling experience of complete emptiness, right? And that's what your consciousness is. That's why they say in the teachings, you know, Sat Chit Ananda, you exist and your existence is consciousness. Your existence is not the body. Your existence is not the personality. Your existence is consciousness, right? That's the truth. That's the truth, right? You have to understand, this is not a theoretical conversation. This is not philosophy. This is actually reality. It's the truth, right? Your existence is consciousness, and when you experience yourself to be that consciousness, you experience bliss. You experience bliss. Because it's just like a space that's fulfilled. You know what I mean? It's like an empty space, but it's fulfilled. It's fulfilled with the possibility of experiencing your existence, right? And we don't know. This existence that I'm referring to, I don't know what it is. Did any of you know what it is? No, but it's always available. It's always here, right? It never changes, and it's never bothered by anything. But when we ignore it, that's called ignorance. When we ignore it and allow ourselves to pay attention to the state of mind and the thought process and the emotions and all that, we're doing what we learned to do that doesn't work. We learned it. We learned it. When we were children, we learned that we were the body. We learned that we're in here behind the eyes looking out. We're really not. It is really possible to close your eyes and experience the awareness that you are. And the awareness that you are, there's a body that's existing in that awareness. But you're not looking from the body at awareness, you're looking from awareness at the body. That's reality, that's what's true, right? And so this is why practice is so important, because your brain has been practicing the other thing. Your brain has been practicing what you got indoctrinated and enculturated into when you went to school. They taught you that thinking is very important, didn't they? Yeah, very important to think, figure things out, analyze everything, you know, come up with the right answers. Thinking is very important, you know. They teach you to do what will drive you crazy and tell you that that's very important, do a lot of that. That's what's going on. They teach you to do what will drive you crazy, right? And then you practice doing what they taught you to do, and you wonder, why isn't this working? I went to school. I went through all the learning process and everything, you know. Not only did I go to school, but I went to college, graduate school, got the highest degree you can possibly get, right? It's just information. It didn't make any difference. Doesn't change the quality of your life at all. At all. Information doesn't change the quality of your life at all. And your conditioning is just information that's stored in your memory. And a lot of that information is information about what happened that was uncomfortable or painful or didn't work, right? It makes a point of storing those things, right? Because it's a survival operation. And so those are the things that get triggered all the time, from the past. This is what they call trauma, right? Yeah. So when you wake up, when you allow yourself to experience what you are as consciousness, there's no past and there's no trauma. There's no past and there's no trauma. So you can be free from whatever's bugging you that comes up from the past, that gets triggered, that you get reminded of. You can get free from that. You can get free from all the mental activity just by paying attention to it. And every time you notice that it's gone south, reset it, reboot it. Just like your computer. If your computer gets stuck, right, because it has a corrupt file, right, and the screen freezes, what do? You reboot it. You reboot it. You start it all over again from scratch. Start the operating system all over again, from scratch. That's how it should be all the time. That's how we should be practicing, is to every time the system that we're referring to gets stuck and goes into a corrupt state, as soon as you notice that, reboot it. Reboot it. Take your attention off that, and then bring it back, after it calms down. Take care of the mind. Because if you're clear who you are, all there is the experience. It's not happening to anybody. Now, the mind will keep bringing up the idea that it is, right? But that's why you're training the mind. You're training the mind, to training the mind to have the material that's consistent with reality. That's why the 8 verses of training the mind is so powerful. How many of you have ever read the 8 verses? If you read the 8 verses, I strongly suggest that you read the 8 verses of training the mind, just so you could see how reading it affects your mind. Because the 8 verses are basically telling you, no matter what happens, no matter what anybody does to you that you consider to be wrong, even if it's something you really don't deserve, right? Allow them to have the victory. Now, if you can practice that, you're practicing something powerful. Because by practicing that, you're basically saying that the personality isn't real, therefore I don't have to defend it. I don't have to be in conflict with anybody about it. Let them have the win. So what? So what? But and I know, when you're in conflict with somebody and you know how right you are and how wrong they are, it ain't like that. It's not so easy to say, so what? But if you can pull it off at that time and practice letting go of your point of view, if you can practice letting go of your point of view, right? That's a big move in the direction of getting free. Every time you do that, it's a big move in the direction of getting free. So I hope that you understand that this is something that, you can go to a physical doctor and the doctor can do something to your body, mechanically do something to your body to fix something that's not working, right? But in terms of psychology, that's different. I can't do anything to your mind. I can't do anything to your mind. You have to be the one to deal with your own mind, right? You have to be the one to understand that practice has to be consistent and it has to be something you're committed to if you really are interested in experiencing the possibility. Otherwise, you can come to a class like this and you can relate to it like an academic situation. You can relate to it like it's interesting. You can relate to it like you really, want to have the experience that this speaks of, right? But if you do that and then you walk out of this class and you just go back into the default state, it's not going to make any difference. And all I care about is that obviously the practice and the teachings work. That's what I care about. And I know that if I stay true to the practice and the teachings, right, I keep reminding myself and keep waking myself up every time I go back to sleep, right, that after a while there starts to be some consistency and stability where there wasn't. And when that starts to hit, when that starts to take place, no matter what goes on in the mind, no matter what's happening in the body, right? It doesn't have an impact. It's just what's going on. That's all. It's just what's going on. So when you lay down to go to sleep, you're going to practice sleeping now. You're not just going to try to go to sleep. You're going to practice sleeping. So that means you lay down in the bed. And before you go to bed, you don't look at a computer screen or a television because that's stimulating your brain. Okay? So an hour or two before you go to bed, you stay away from that stuff, right? You start to let your body slow down. You don't need a heavy meal when it's late. You know, you look at all the factors, right? And then you lie down in the bed. When you lie down in the bed, what you do is you start to pay attention to the body, not necessarily just the breath, but the breath. Start to pay attention to the body with the intention of letting go, which means take the attention away from the thinking activity and just pay attention to the body with the intention of letting go and letting the muscles go limp, letting the body go limp, letting the bed support the whole weight of your body, letting the body go limp, letting the body be heavy. And just keep your attention on the body with the intention to relax and you fall asleep. So, and you practice it. So you keep looking at is there a factor that I didn't notice? Is there something that contributes to how deep I sleep, right? If you meditate before you go to bed, that's another thing that I do every night before I go to bed. You know, I meditate twice during the day, and then before I go to sleep, I sit and meditate. And when I sit and meditate before I go to sleep, I don't time it, right? I just sit there with the intention. The whole intention is just to let the body relax and let the mind calm down. That's the whole intention of the final meditation. And then I lie down in the bed and do what I just said. And then I keep looking at the feedback, and the feedback keeps increasing. You know, it went up from 1 hour deep sleep to 2 hours to 3 hours to 4 hours. Now it's up to 5 hours. And deep sleep is the body gets the most value from deep sleep. It actually heals in deep sleep because you're in a coma in deep sleep. So the body heals, right? And when you wake up from deep sleep, you feel a really refreshed experience of your body. So yeah, look at your life like a project, you know, that you're practicing these things. You're practicing walking. You know, when you walk, are you thinking or are you aware of the body walking? That's a practice. When you're driving your car, are you in your head or are you experiencing being in the car driving? You know, when you're talking to somebody, are you in your head or are you with the person that you're talking to? Everything's a practice. You know, when you're eating, are you just like eating for the taste? You know, or do you care about the quality of the material you're putting into your body? That's a practice. It's all a practice. It's all a practice. Every aspect of your life is a practice.